Good afternoon, everyone. The viewers who are watching this program, this has been a very long due for me to have an interview with Dr. Srikesavan sir from UK. Very close to heart person and a person who practices evidence and preaches the same. So, without wasting much time, let me go into these questions. Welcome to the program, dear sir. So, my first question is: how you define a successful physiotherapist?
That is a difficult question with a lot of subjectivity associated to it. Yes. Um, but how I would define it is going by what I have seen among friends and among the professionals that I've spoken to. The first 3 points are very, very clear on success. It's definitely the number of videos that you share on social media. The videos that you share about patients, their family, and multiple generations, dragging them, and then claiming that you have taken consent, which is an all-important word there, the consent. Oh, I've taken consent. So that is the first and foremost criteria. But not only sharing the videos, there should also be a group of followers to put those like and well done and beautiful work stickers, and then very good and all of that. And so that is the first criteria. Second, I would say the number of physiotherapy awards that you get. Now, I've been practicing for 24 years now as a physiotherapist. And when I look back, I was really ashamed of myself that I didn't have even a single award from associations or whatever it is. And then recently what I did is I gave myself one. I had to do that because I was feeling really, it was a kind of a syndrome where what have I done for the last? So that is definitely now these awards need not be based on hard work or anything. You can have contacts in different places, and then you can go my route where you can actually give it to yourself, or probably purchase something. So that's what I did recently. And then the third is, of course, the number of techniques you learn. And it is not only that, it is more about how many other professions that you can encroach. So that is the thing. In Tamil, we have that saying that namakku vanda blood, அடுத்தவனுக்கு vanda தக்காளி juice. Basically, it says that when it happens to us, we make a big cry about it, but when it happens to others, we really don't care about it. So the number of professions you encroach, chiropractors or osteopathies or dietitians or psychologists, so these are full-fledged professions. So in 10 years, if you manage to encroach around 5 to 6 professions, I would say that that's a very successful therapist there. And then the number of techniques owned. It is not only the number of techniques owned, you also should have the political or the Dadagiri clout to actually go after the people who practice that without doing multi-tier courses under you. So these are some of the most important parameters of success I would define. And then, of course, there's the lesser important ones, which are basically the financial. If you're able to put bread on the table or rice on the table for your family and make a living out of the profession, I would put myself in that category where I haven't made a lot of money, but I've managed for the last 24 years to feed my family, and so I've done that. And then there's also a minority of physiotherapists might be happy and consider themselves successful if they have an opportunity to constantly learn. That is an important. Physiotherapy is such a fast-moving profession, and I keep saying that the sky is the limit, but some people misunderstand that. But there's so much we can learn. So if we have a sense of satisfaction that we are learning constantly, that should give us some level of give us a sense of success. And then, of course, contributing to the profession. Some of us I include that in I include myself in that category where you give back to the profession, because my BPT I spent for the whole course 3,600 rupees, um, which is nothing. So every bit of money that I made is out of the profession. So I want to give back so much to the profession. Now, when that I consider myself successful primarily because I do that. I find I look for opportunities and I give, and there are several people who do that, but this is the minority. And these are some of the smaller categories. But as I mentioned, the former categories that I mentioned, that truly defines a successful therapist.
I don't know how you can make such sarcastic comments without even a small tinge of smile on your face, but that is your way of doing it. I really love it. So your physiotherapy day message is loud and clear. So next question on, sir. How you see a difference in the health structure as far as UK and India is concerned, both on the positive side as well as on the negative side, because you have been there in UK and you have all the knowledge about the structure in UK, and you had been here in China, in India, so you know it better. You are the right person to call it.
It's an interesting question. It's universal healthcare in the UK, so where at the point of care, you don't have to pay for it, so it is free healthcare. And the NHS, with all its struggles, it is a looked upon institution around the world on how to provide free healthcare for everyone. So if I talk about UK, the positives from a therapy perspective itself, one of the first positive things I would say is there is a robust professional association. So the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy is there, who are not only the professional association, they are a union as well. So they fight for you from all angles, whether it is pay related or employment related or other union related issues. And then the professional side of it is to improve the profession representation to the government. So that is a very positive thing about the structure. And uh, uh, yes, in the NHS and the private sector itself. And the second thing, from a therapy perspective, I would say that UK, from a therapy perspective, are a global leader, and a lot of the generation of evidence or practices which improve patient care, a lot of those actually come from the UK. If you think about it, some of the textbooks we read from when we were undergraduate, the Dina Gardiner and all of that, they're all UK based. So they have a head start when you say that. So they take it as an advantage. And then the third thing I would say is the multidisciplinary team approach. So therapists are not looked upon like somebody who is your subordinate or something like that. So therapists are a very integral part of the multidisciplinary team. For example, if somebody has to be discharged from the hospital, therapists basically have to assess them and say that this patient is fine from our perspective, and that is when they will be sent home. So that the role of the therapist is very important in that MDT context. And then another thing I would say is that there's a lot of emphasis on self-management, where patients are empowered to help themselves. So there is always the thing that, oh, I didn't get to talk to the therapist. I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to do that. That feeling of, if I visit the therapist, I will be better. But a lot of movement is happening towards self-management. And there is no misconcept that I wouldn't say there is, that when it comes to self-management, that therapists are not involved. Therapists are involved there, but it is more about teaching. The negative in terms, I would say that the only thing I could think of is the waiting list. Because it is a public system, the waiting list can be horrendous. Suppose you have a chronic condition requiring physiotherapy. Sometimes the waiting list might go to 6 months, 1 year, even. So that is the flip side of it. I've seen that in Canada as well. So it is it's interesting that I mentioned UK and Canada because both have the public healthcare systems. So that's the flip side of it. And then the time devoted. Sometimes sessions are booked for 15 minutes. So how much can you actually do in a 15-minute session? So I mean, if it comes to India from a professional perspective, there are several positives. One of the things is easy access. If you want a physiotherapist, today morning, you can go on Google and then find one in your local area. And you can find an appointment for the same evening. So that is a huge, huge positive. It, uh, it, it is positive in both terms, easy access to patient and actually therapists having an opportunity to intervene at an early stage where you don't allow the chronicity to happen. And then autonomous practice itself. Now, whatever said and done, we are autonomous practitioners in India, irrespective of what other professions think. So that is a huge, huge positive. If you think about some of the structures in other parts of the country, you can't actually access physio. In other parts of the world, I meant. You can't access physio unless it is prescribed by some other healthcare professional. And then the younger generation, I'm very positive about the younger generation, the ones who are not spoilt by the teachers and by the gurus and the ones who escaped those clutches and the ones who don't do the chamcha sort of stuff. They are good thinkers. They are thinking out of the box on how to improve services, how to reach out to the to the community. They are doing that. So those are some of the positives, I would say. And then if you look at the negatives, it is common human nature, isn't it? So the positives, we think that it should be a given. So that is why we don't concentrate too much of it. The negatives, we look for them. Okay, what is the negativity here? What is the negativity? Which is a human nature, but then we have to do that so that we can improve it. So if you think about it, lack of awareness creation, I would say that is a huge, huge negative thing because we live in an era of tech. Our patients are technologically enabled. Even in villages, everybody have phones, and so we haven't. I don't think we still have tapped into that market where we can create awareness of what our profession is. It's not to blame the youngsters. It is mainly let us say that we as seniors we failed them. We can actually safely say that. And then the reluctance to update, doing the same thing over and over again, just because you were successful, you made a bit of money by doing the same thing, you just keep on doing the same thing. And one of the concepts in evidence-based medicine is every 10 years, things change. Or it could change with the rapid way of how research is being conducted. It could change in 5 years. So what was good 5 years back is not good anymore. So unless you update yourself, they're not updating. So that is a big negative aspect. And then the poor research practices. I'm pretty sure somebody who's passionate about research like you will agree about the poor research practice. Now, why I'm against this is my whole concept is that you don't have to do research. Nobody is pointing a gun at you to conduct research. Unless you're in a master's program or a PhD program where you have to do it, nobody is asking you to do that. So don't actually do something sloppy and then destroy the process of the research. It is basically you're setting up a precedence of poor practice all along. And then, the whole publication, the malicious publication and the journals and everything. We are setting up a bad example as teachers. UGC opened a can of worms and then everybody started following it. And recently I saw a physiotherapy publication in a pharmacy journal. So I engaged with this author saying that how is this even going to reach pharmacists? They don't care about it. Was an exercise study, to be honest. How is this going to reach pharmacists? They don't care about exercise, and physiotherapists, we don't learn about journal. We don't read pharmacy journals. So how you put in an effort writing a publication Even if it is a sloppy paper, it is a difficult task. It is a difficult task. Everybody agrees. But putting all of that effort and just for the sake of a number on the resume, when I engaged the response was that nowadays with Google and online publication, they can type the name of the author and then get that. There's nothing to do with peer review, nothing to do with so my response was, by the same logic, you can publish it in an engineering journal. All you have to do is to type the name of the author and it will just come up on Google and then you can. So all these false logics. So this is what is happening. Poor research practices and publication. And then the misdirection. This is a huge negative. So youngsters are joining a course with a lot of hope on making a life out of that. So we need to leave students to be students in in the colleges. So allow them to create a solid foundation of gaining the basics there. And then maybe during internship, they can start looking around and thinking about what is out there in the world. And then they can charter their own course rather than nowadays. I was recently checking a PDF of the MJ University syllabus. The word evidence came around a couple of times, but the word trigger came several times more. On a PDF, you can easily do a search. So that is the status of this. So if you look at it from that perspective, it is the misdirection being given by the structures that are there, and then the teachers, of course. I know you as a teacher, and I've been a teacher, and there are many teachers. The single blame that I put on is the teachers, and I will touch on that later on as well. It is based on the power structures. And then the professional association, I don't know what to say about it. I was a member, and whether I should put it in the positive or the negative, I don't know, but everybody has an opinion. And my opinion is that that is a bane to the profession in India. Nothing good has ever come out of that. As an association, there should be some direction. And when it comes to fighting for the doctor, there's a hue and cry and things like that. But then when it comes to promoting the profession, you won't believe, Professor, I actually got a message on Messenger yesterday. So what it said is that this boy, he is a undergraduate student. He actually has messaged. Just imagine their thinking. This is the future of the profession, and I was surprised. It's a good story actually, and no sarcasm involved here. Just as a warning. So this chap has approached the WCPT, saying that there's all the profession, leaflets and everything about awareness in other languages. Why isn't it there in Tamil? And then the WCPT responded that you kindly approach the local association, because normally we had it from the Sri Lankan Association of Physiotherapy, but this year we don't. And then this chap approached, as usual, in Tamil, you know whom to approach. So approached and no response. And then he sent me a long message. And then I felt really sad that this is a wonderful opportunity that we should be taking advantage, and no response. And then I messaged it to another physiotherapist who I know closer home. This is what, and then she basically said that we've been working on this for the last year. It will come out in the next 2 or 3 days. So there's no direction from the professional association itself. So that, and then of course there are multiple professional associations, confusing the students and the younger generation more which one to go to, and things like that. So these are some of the negatives, I would say.
Yeah. So why I was asking this question, sir, because we have all the resources in India, yet we produce very poor quality research, and we don't teach our students well. Whatever may be the reason, like the teachers are underpaid or researchers are not being funded, they cannot be excused for these things. Of course, I was also into this system for a long time. We do have pressure from the management to publish articles, but they don't force us to do RCTs. They don't force us to do certain interventional studies. They want publication, that's it. So if you squeeze your brain in doing quality research, you can definitely do. You can do a community analysis and present what is the community situation. That is lacking. And second thing, sir, there is no connectivity between the researcher and the clinician. So most of the people who do research are not clinician. They don't see patients at all. So that is the curse of our current situation. And the
Yeah, yeah,
third question, sir, we are moving on. It is a I think it's going to be a cakewalk for you. Why all the uh, evidence-based practitioners or people who follow science are either rude or they are very sarcastic. They don't come down and teach people. They just like that pass comments. This question was asked by someone towards me who said I was very sarcastic. But I want to put this question to the guru of sarcasm to answer this question. Why all evidence-based practitioners are either rude or sarcastic, at least from physiotherapist's point of view.
I I don't know who is coming to your mind when you actually frame this question. I can think of a few people, and I'm honest. I will include myself in that. I wouldn't go as far as rude. I was rude. I could have been, but sarcasm I chose because uh, it's it's because of frustration. There is no other way to safely express what you can, and then attribute it to sarcasm and just walk away, because there's no other way to do that. Now, it I again go back to the frustration part. It's like when you're frustrated, that's how you come across. The reason is because me and you and the third person who doesn't want to do it have the same resources, as you mentioned. We chose to actually go and look at the resources. We chose to look at the evidence and what will benefit the patient the most, and then started thinking in that process. Now, to be honest, what we learned as students is completely, how do I say, when what I did from 94 in the course to 98 is nonsense. None of that is unlearn. I had to unlearn a lot of that process, because we were in first year, we were stretching CP children, make them crying and make them crying. Oh my goodness. Yeah. The whole OP, the ward, the OP will be lot of kids crying. So the more you stretch and the more you make them cry, we thought that the more will be the outcome. It just imagine thinking of the one is ashamed of themselves. And then in first year, we were learning before we were practicing before we learned, second year while we learned, third year after we learned. And it basically all of that is nonsense. So unlearning was a huge problem of that. Now, the efforts itself, if we are putting efforts and if people are not listening, then I know we shouldn't go arrogant, but when there is, you go and approach a place that you want to conduct this, they basically say that no, you're not welcome here. So it is not only being ridiculed or something, it's basically being rejected. So no, you're not welcome here. You won't believe, Professor, it was 2007, I think, 2007. I made my first presentation on evidence-based medicine. It was hugely touched on that initial book by Paul Glasio and an APTA article that I got. And then my first presentation was in Abu Road. It was a college which was there. It was a nice place. And at the end of it was a full day session. And everybody spoke about, and then there was a 1 hour cultural program towards the end. Everybody talked about the 1 hour cultural program after for many days. They forgot the 8 hours I was screaming on clinical practice guidelines and everything. They did say that, sir, you've read a lot, you're thinking ahead, and but that was it. And then I delivered the same thing in Ahmedabad in an institution. They said that this will work out for other countries, but not for India. They delivered in Surat, same this thing. So it is not that we haven't done the effort. It is the frustration that comes out across as maybe arrogant. And also you need to remember, for you to read all of this, to access the literature, to appraise it, and to update oneself, it takes a lot of effort, and nobody is paying you for that. So when people are doing that, maybe a tint of arrogance will be seen. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. We have to consistently make an effort to actually go and reach out. But it is, I strongly believe it is a losing battle, because the opposite group is so strong and so attractive. It is like it's a losing cause.
So this unlearning is one thing I really learned it from you now. Moving on to the next question, what is your take on people who pretend as if they practice science? They come and post on, maybe many people post on the wall saying that we practice science, but they actually don't do it. They don't practice what they preach, and they don't preach what they practice. In fact, recently I am seeing there is one physiotherapist who is on Facebook who holds a CP child with her neck, and who does all gimmicks. But even for him to pass sarcastic comments, people are there to say congratulations, well done, passion is not shown in that way, and it shows his ignorance. But still, there are people who pretend on Facebook. What is their impact on the youngsters, and what is your take on them?
It is, sadly, that impact is huge. So I don't know which. So the first thing when I do is, when I started off 2022, I started off with a resolution that I should not comment on anything professional on Facebook. But I recently had to, where I basically said that it's not, I addressed it from the consent perspective and not the technique itself, because I know it's wrong, but I don't want to comment it because I don't know too much about it. So, and then the kind of barraging, you basically need, with us Indians, we don't leave it. We don't take criticism well. So it's horrible. So people who pretend, I only one word, they're just cheating the public, they're just cheating themselves, and they are cheating the profession and setting up all those youngsters who follow them for failure. So we were taught that without our hands we can't be good physiotherapists. That notion has changed. It's basically how you empower patients to do things for themselves. That changed several decades back. We are still holding on to it unless we hold them and do some shaking or do something. And these pretenders, they are doing a huge disservice to the profession. They they're actually destroying it. I would go so. And but sadly, there's no regulatory authority. And even in countries where there are regulatory authorities, it is a losing battle. People get away with it, with doing all of these things. So the control regulation should come from within, and they are setting up youngsters for failure. And obviously, they will have a group of friends who will actually like it and then share it, and then you're doing a great job, and it's basically a bunch of cheaters, to put it softly. Yeah,
Yeah.
they might earn
Well,
money, but they are cheating the patients. That's all.
so by passing such comments on Facebook very boldly, I have seen you commenting on big stalwarts also, when they do this cheating sort of thing. Have you ever faced any issues or any threat calls or any problems as such, just for the sake of knowledge?
Mm, I wouldn't say threat calls or something, but I would say that there will be an uncomfortable feeling. So see, I'm from one of the things that I get often is that you are in a different country. Why are you bothered about what is happening here? That is in it is not only in our profession; it is in all the professions. We are Indians, so we wherever we go, we have come for a life. We have not come for, so there is that attachment. And I told you that we do a lot of research. I know there's another question about that. And then we do a lot of volunteer work. It's not only money. So don't ever think that once you go abroad and make a little bit of money, by just giving money, you're trying to affect change there. No, you're not. You're only creating a lazy bunch of people. But if you work with them to affect change, you will be able to succeed to an extent. But the first thing they look at is from a skeptical perspective. But once we start engaging, then they know that, okay, the person's intentions are right. But sarcasm, you have to play for it. And then unless you challenge these clowns, nothing is going to happen. When you challenge them, it disturbs their mind. Even though they get 10 likes, if one person challenges, their good night's sleep is gone. So that is my intention. They have to go home. How am I going to respond to this fellow? How am I going to respond to this person? They have openly challenged me on social media. Should I file a case? Should I do that? Should I do this? You basically messed up with their brain. You have to do that. The more and more you do it, the next time when they think about doing such nonsense, they will think twice or thrice. So if more people do that, I know it is a losing battle, but some people get really ugly. They come to personal DM messages and everything. And if you have the attitude where you just ignore it for the sake of the profession, I don't think it hasn't gone to the point where I have to be worried about what's happening, but I'm being careful. But the more and more I keep doing that, currently I'm having an engagement with the biggest and the largest organization, the association in the country, which is basically going into an area where you can't do this, you can't share this, you can't share it, and I'm questioning them. I don't know where it will end up, but you have that hint of fear that because this India, isn't it? Anything can happen, and couch warriors create anonymous accounts and they can tell anything. But if you get to a point where you don't care about it, I think you're safe.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the control points or the associations in the country, which has to take a stand on all these malpractices. Do you think there is a lot of favoritism or nepotism in IAP that is spoiling the moves of IAP? Or
Well, there are multiple associations, isn't it? So, according to WCPT data, the IAP has only 12,000 members. I don't know how they claim that they're the biggest and the largest and things like that. Nepotism in its true sense, I wouldn't say so, because it's mainly, if you clearly define it, it's mostly favoring family members or something like that. But if you go to favoritism, absolutely. So it can be put up there as the most remarkable example of favoritism. We're dishing out posts, dishing out favors. This recently, a year back or something, I shared this thing like a meme where there are so many people on a beach, and then I mentioned that these are the members who have got posts in Tamil Nadu IAP. Because, like, if you have so many posts, then who are the members then? There are no members for the people in post to work with. Every district, and how did you actually even select them? Did they apply for a post? Did they give any evidence of, okay, I've done this for the profession, I can do this? No, it is just all giving it to friends. Suddenly, and I learned that one of my friends is a district branch coordinator or something. I was like, what is wrong, man, with you? Like, so it is favoritism, huge level. And in this, the problem is, if you challenge that, you get ganged up. You get ganged up, and any challenge you make, you get ganged. Those are attitudes that need to change. And so favoritism, absolutely, no doubt about that. Yeah.
The main reason why I asked this question was any college principal who is bringing 100 students or 150 students for the conference are being given red carpet welcome. They have been given free hands to pay their fees. They collect it directly from the pay students, and then they pay whatever it is for the IAP. We don't know what is the accountability of all those things. So such things, when it happens, it hurts people like us. We don't want any recognition from IAP, but still, if these people are being recognized, and that is a very sorry state for IAPs.
It
So
is
then,
absolutely. It's. I just wanted where these people who do that should hang their heads in shame. They are destroying the profession just for some sort of monetary benefit, or sitting in a pub and drinking, or whatever it is, or dancing. It's horrible. They are the people who are destroying the profession. It's very sad. I've heard some really bad stories.
sir, next, from the government point of view, why the government is not prioritizing physiotherapist as a mainstream paramedical or medical or whatever it is profession as such? Because we are still being paid from a government organization, from the government posted physiotherapists are getting hardly 12, 14, 16. These are the salaries, thousands in thousands. Why the government is not prioritizing us, or what we have to do to attract their attention, so that to prove them that we are also a predominant profession.
Some of my views might be controversial. The reason is because I mean the path was set many years back, let's say 50 years back. The direction that we took and why we are in this situation. So in India, the healthcare system is highly driven by a medical model, and it is the physicians and the surgeons who are in the top posts in decision making authorities. And back then, I don't know why our seniors fought with them. Uh, they did the damage at that point. And currently, what our generation did and what the future generation is doing is to have to pick up those pieces and then make something out of nothing. So what I'm trying to say is that we can never force ourselves into something, but we can actually work together with them for professional upliftment. I'll give you a classic example. Like when the first contract practice was developed in the UK, my understanding of it, it had to be supported by the doctors, by the GPs. They had to have the feeling that these people are not encroaching into our profession. And rather than that, they had to have the feeling that they're actually helping us cut down waiting times, and they're actually a qualified profession who learn a lot, who can actually help us in this area. So it had to come from them, and they had to be part of this change happening. We missed that kind of engagement bus 50 years back, probably. So what did we fight for 50 years back? MBBS course was 5.5 years, isn't it? 50 years back. And what
Yes.
was physiotherapy? It was a diploma of 2 years. And then what did you fight for? You fought for equal rights, and you fought for doctor. Whether the doctor tag is relevant or not, you actually went around claiming that you're a doctor, and you got the wrath of the officials there who are in the positions of power. That's when they started knocking on our head, and since then it has been no comeback. You can go to the court and get a doctor, or you can go and get a doctor under the tree. That is an irrelevant thing. All of the energy was spent for that. So how are you going to go and represent to the government where it is all the doctors, or it is they are in the higher positions of power? So you didn't want to pick your battles there. You picked the wrong battle, and as a consequence of that, we are suffering. Now, if we promoted ourselves as part of this whole healthcare thing, rather than, I mean, there is going to be a hierarchy of professions, isn't it? Even though we say consider an MDT and equal power for all, it is not always equal. That's the law of the world. There are going to be positions of power, and there are going to be positions where we will have to listen to them in one way or the other. They can take our opinions. So that's why I think it went all wrong. So whenever you go for something good, whenever you take something good, they shoot it off right there. They think that our ulterior motive is to become equal to them, or to get doctor, or whatever it is there. And that is the sad thing, the complete misguidance by seniors. Now, that's my controversial view. Others may not agree with it, but I think we went wrong there, and we are left to pick up the pieces there. And then, of course, the professional organization itself, where misguided priorities there. And this is what formed the professional organization. Who you agree, you tell me, if somebody goes and says that, I did a 2-year course, you did a 5.5-year course, I want to be equal to you. Let us take ourselves from the professional hat and think, would this work out in a commonplace market? It won't.
No,
it won't. So we need to know our priorities. We need to pick our battles and what we want. And that's where I think we went wrong. And the professional organization also took that view. And then now you have a PhD. you are a you. I mean, you addressed me as a doctor. I didn't object to that. I should have objected. I don't like to be called as a doctor. I like to identify myself as a physiotherapist. Now, if I call you as a doctor, you are the legitimate person. We have this question where even MBBS people are not doctors because it is not mentioned in their certificates or something. But to you, the university has given it as you are a doctor. I can legitimately call you as a doctor. So it is all this pettiness there and then they are the people in power. They made sure that we don't have any growth at all in the profession. And then professional organization. And then it is also, we also need to understand that um, except for in a few situations where you will get indirect benefits like mobility helps prevent deterioration, and in some chest physiotherapy situations, they may save the. We are not an emergency service. We need to know our place. Which are we in the preventive landscape, or are we in the reactive landscape, or where we are? We need to know our place. So instead of that, going and fighting and saying that this is our place with the wrong view. So the government, imagine if there are funds, uh, if they have 1 million rupees or something, and what is the most urgent need? It is to control infant mortality. It is to control maternal mortality. It is to control infections. It is to there is a hierarchy of needs and services.
Yes.
So we can't go and fight for that 1 million pot of money, saying that okay, we are a physiotherapist, we want that. So that is the wrong concept, isn't it? So people have to survive first for the physiotherapist to come in and intervene. We can't work on it.
Yes.
So we need to know our priorities, where we stand in the professional landscape, and where we. When we go to a firefighting government where they have to allocate resources, we are going to be in the back of the line there. So we need to find innovative ways of how to actually repair. And the pay thing, it is not only for us; it is happening for all the other professions. So we are not singled out there. So I believe nurses are being appointed in ad hoc basis. I believe other professions are. So it is not just us. It is the way the government is working. So it is not just us. I don't think so. If we don't want it, we just leave it. That's basically. I know it's a crude thing to say, but why do they join with the hope that these posts will become permanent one day? And what do permanent therapists do? Nothing, basically. I know one of my seniors recently wrote a blog on what government physiotherapists do. It was very critical, but it was to the point. We are in this situation primarily because of a lot of the government physiotherapists and their views.
Sir, in connection to this, at least an effort from our side to grab the attention of public, or to grab the attention of the administrators. How do the community-based research would go? If you see, I review a lot of articles from Japan. These Japanese are very concerned about their aged people. They do a lot of research on their aged people. They are very concerned about their whereabouts, what is the geographical accessibility to them. And at the same time, some Southeast nations are also very concerned about their kids, where they go and do a lot of screening for school-based people. But we don't do that as such in India. In case if this community-based research stems up in physiotherapy, when we show off in many places there are some data which are very critical for the government, would it be a good move to grab the attention of people? What is your opinion, sir?
It is. You actually struck a chord there, and it's absolutely essential. So one of the things is that it's who is our power there. That is what we have to look for. Who, at the end of the day, who has to say that we have done a good job? It is our patients. They are the people who have to say that. Just imagine a feeling that the boss says that you did a good job, and then two patients say you did a good job. What feeling would elate you more? The boss would say because they need the staff, but the patients, they can go to another therapist. So if they say to you that you did a good job, so that is where we should target. So community-based research is really, really important. If the people want it, then the governments will listen. But then again, the system is there where, in our system, especially, the collective people's power is decided by many other factors, isn't it? The religion comes into play, caste comes into play, all of the normal stuff that happens in our society that comes into play. So identifying those people and doing community-based research is the most important thing. Now, what and then I think one part of the question was why we are stuck with clinical studies alone and not
Yes.
concentrating on the community as well. If we concentrate on the community and gather them as our support, then we may be able to influence change in the society. Now, why we are stuck with clinical studies alone? I mean, my controversial view is always blame it on the teachers. It is absolutely the teachers who should be. It is not that the students are thinking that were to do research and in other areas. It is just the teachers. Teachers are just fascinated with all these clinical studies, and they don't approve the protocols. They don't approve the projects. They think that unless some significant game-changing work is done, you won't be eligible for a master's. So a lot of the master's projects, some really good master's projects, are actually surveys on people, understanding what their perspectives are. We should encourage our master students to do those rather than the 30 n number is 30 pre-test, post-test, retest, and then you have changed the world. You have changed nothing. You only printed it on paper, which is killed a few trees. That's all. So that's the waste. And then the implementation is not effective as well. Going into the community and then implementing whatever evidence is there. If we concentrate on all of this along with us, we can gather the public as well and then represent ourselves to the government. I think we have a stronger chance in affecting change there as opposed to lobbying or things like that.
Sir, I think you might have come across a lot of interventions and approaches in the field of physiotherapy in the recent past. Some claim themselves as advanced. Some of them are very sublime. And what do you think is the biggest change in trend or advanced thing that has happened, or scientific deviation that has happened in the field of physiotherapy, probably in the last decade or so?
I would say that from a world perspective, physiotherapists are becoming leaders in trials, in generating quality evidence, especially in the last 15 to 20 years, and more so in the last 10 years. So big trials are happening, and which are not only affecting therapy as such, it is affecting healthcare as a whole. One of the things that I quote often is the AIM trial. People can Google AIM trial ankle fractures. It was on how to manage ankle fractures. So this was a significant trial that was led by a physiotherapist, which led to change in how ankle fractures are managed around the world. So therapists are coming into the forefront of leading research, not only which affect just therapy alone, but in general healthcare. And that is a huge thing. And I don't want to respond to this question technique-based, but more at a higher level than that. And then the second thing that I've seen in the last 10 years is patients leading research. So the concept of patient and the public initiative. So one of the concepts in the UK is that whether it's for research projects or for clinical projects, a layperson will be a patient will be actually part of the committee in deciding whether this person can have funding or not, or this project can be funded or not. Nowadays, they are even being included in publications because that is the level of involvement that they have. Now, this is a game-changing thing. Recently, if you look at the partnership between the James Lind Alliance and the CSP, they came out with 10 priorities of research. So earlier it was like the researcher decided what he or she has to research based on their whatever they dreamt about or things like that. So nowadays it is like the patients are telling, go on, this is our public money, go on and do research in this. So that is a huge shift, I would say. And then another thing I would say is that the extended scope thing in the field of physiotherapy, where you don't limit yourself. So with the right competencies, you go on to doing stuff that is beyond your scope. With the right training, with the right competence. So if you take injection therapy, and then if you take another thing, non-medical prescribing. So these are some of the things I would say that have changed in the worldwide. But in India itself, the advances I would say is that access to literature related to tech, this has changed. It is a game changer. I still remember in 2007, 8, we had Cochrane access through an ICMR program or something, and it was, and then access to literature was minimal other than that. But nowadays there's so much of access, so that I think is a huge change. And then, in spite of all the poor, shoddy work that is being done, there's a lot of good work also being done in research in India. So increased research work, and then good publications are coming out. There are pockets of researchers. I would say Manipal is doing a good job, and then there are, I don't want to mention other institutions, but there is a lot of, and then the whole thing about another positive thing is that we are exporting a lot of physiotherapists to several countries, and that is a good thing, isn't it? Like, people are having the confidence in us and then recruiting us, so that is a good thing. I would say that in the last 10 years, these are some of the major changes that has happened. Techniques, I don't want to say, because the reason is because what is good in this decade might not be good in the next decade. So we don't know that. Yeah.
Great, sir. Well said, sir. Sir, when why this question came up is, now the major distraction for all the young physiotherapists who are misguided as per your ideas is the option of going for chiropractic and osteopathy, mm, which have not stemmed up as a course as such in India so far. No university is offering any course on this, but still only managing with these workshops and these things. But I do understand that some universities from Gujarat are taking serious steps in coming up with a bachelor degree and master's degree, or even updation degrees for physiotherapists in chiropractic. In what way this is going to spoil the mainstream physiotherapist as such, who don't believe in all these things?
Well, it's an interview here, so I have to be polite about it. If we were having a casual chat elsewhere, my language would be different. It's going to destroy it, absolutely destroy it. See, why am I saying that? So we have to respect other professions. We have to absolutely respect. So there should be some integrity in that. So chiro practitioners are a full-fledged a profession in other countries. The same with osteopathy. So what a bunch of jokers did is, maybe 10 years back or something, they went and did a 2-day course and came, and then they became the saviors of the Indian physiotherapy community, teaching techniques and that. So if something, it's really sad, isn't it? Giving credit to a handful of people, to imagine the amount of effect they have had in the profession itself, because everybody is talking about this. So it was done by just a handful of people, and now it's gone to the point where courses are being, I think there's a course being conducted in Orissa or somewhere in a private university. I'm not sure about that, but it will actually destroy the profession. If now physiotherapy as an individual profession, if they're there, and then if they're doing something in their own landscape, that is a different thing. But conducting bridging courses to join, you don't need it, isn't it? Anyway,
Yeah.
they are not going to recognize it. So it is not going to come under the Allied Health Professions Bill or something. If it comes, we are doomed. We are basically doomed. And the more we keep doing these techniques and everything, the more we are losing our originality in terms of a strong exercise-based profession, a strong patient education-based profession, a strong self-management profession. One of the things is, can you do chiropractic or osteopathy via Zoom or video?
No.
You
Yeah.
can't.
No.
So you can do physiotherapy via Zoom. We know that. We can. So we are in such a state where we can make so much of difference in our patients' lives. We are just not hands-based. So if you take that away from your mindset, you will actually come back to physiotherapy. So if courses are being planned, that I don't know, as professional associations, they should object and they should reject all of this. But if it is happening, it will take us several decades back.
Yeah, true. Very
Yeah,
true,
and
sir.
another thing is, would we be happy if chiropractors actually learn a couple of physiotherapy related things and then go and do? So that's a question you always want to ask.
True, sir. Sir, as far as physiotherapy is concerned, coming to the positive side, what are the areas which are still under researched in physiotherapy, which have been hardly touched? Very few researchers have touched, and
Yeah, I couldn't hear the last few words, but from an Indian perspective, what I can say is that, and from a global perspective itself, what what we need to know is what patients want from us. So that is I'm glad it is going in that direction, but still it is under research. There needs to be more and more and more research. You know how much of research had to be done to understand pain. We were all swearing by the Melzack theory, and for us to come out of that, imagine the amount of research that had to be done to come
yes,
out of that concept and go into the biopsychosocial model. It took, imagine the millions spent. So that is what it is going to take to actually come out of the mindset of going from what we want to do research in and then what patients actually want. So that's where the area which is under research, especially in India, it is related to awareness. So I would really love to see a master's project where where therapists go out into the community and just ask them, I'm doing a master's in physiotherapy. Do you know what it is?
yeah,
Basically, do you know what it is? Ask that from 200 people and then come and actually put it out. And that will give you a clear understanding of where priorities need to be. And then again, the knowledge translation aspect. From an Indian perspective, once I learned from a professor in Canada that when you actually develop the evidence, for that evidence to actually come into policies, it will take around 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years
yeah.
after generating the evidence.
Mm,
So just imagine how much of work has to go in that. So knowledge translation work, a lot has to be done. Research has to be done. Now I know of a therapist who is doing a lot of this work, and with she's doing a lot of work with SRM University. We try to do a lot of work with a couple of hospitals. There are, I know there's a question later on. There are possibilities if we have the will. People will open up, and though my whole interview might sound a negative shade, there are a lot of positive things that are happening, and people are working towards that. And then benefits for patients. One of the key things I learned is that and shifted my mind focus. I don't decide whether the patient benefited or not. So from prompts, we have to move to prems. So did the patient benefit from it? Now, I would say that I moved from 30 degrees of 30 degrees of knee flexion to 90 degrees of knee flexion. And I'm really, really happy with that. But the patient will say that I still cannot sit in an Indian toilet. So that is their experience. You thought that you did benefit, but the patient
mm,
still didn't get benefit. And then you would think in another way that, okay, I only managed to get the patient to 90 degrees. And another second patient would be really, really happy there. Guess why? Because he went from an Indian toilet to a Western toilet where he can
yes, sir.
actually be functionally able. So win, that is a win for me and him or her, where I
Mhm.
didn't consider that as a win to me. So it's basically what benefits the patient. So a lot of research has to go in there, and then self-management. A lot of research has to happen there as well. On okay, I've taught you some exercises here. You go after a month or 2 months, and how well did you do with your exercises? Did you find them easy, or did you find it? I know it will reduce the income for the therapist, but that is a good area to research, under researched.
Yeah. So the patient-centric approach and the
Thank you.
patient-centric research is the need of the hour.
Yeah.
Well said. Sir, I think you have answered this question already, but I just wanted to ask you once again, what is the change you see, or what is the mindset of the new generation of physiotherapists from your point of view, from India, particularly, not in UK, in India?
Mindset is what we prepare them for, isn't it? When they're students. I recently saw some posts on some lovely techniques which are being taught for second year students, going and very proudly putting, I spoke to this college students, I spoke to that college. What a criminal kind of mindset it is. You're corrupting minds there. You're going and teaching them techniques which you should be teaching the fundamentals there. So the institution heads should be ashamed of themselves, and the people who went there should be ashamed of themselves. So the mindset that they come out with is the mindset we actually set them up for, isn't it? If we propagate techniques in their 4 years of code, they are going to come out and run behind techniques. If we propagate solid basic science and for them to critically think, and to appraise stuff for themselves, whether it's a research or whether it's a technique or whatever it is out there, if you allow them to think, then they will come out with a good mindset there. So that is what we are lacking. And whether to blame the student or to blame the teachers, I would blame the teachers there. And then the other mindset is that they're not willing to do the hard work. So I get so many queries from students who say that, oh, I want to move there. I send a couple of documents like the HCPC guidance document. They don't read. They want it to be
Mhm.
spoon fed. The technology is in their hands. You know, Tamil movies like 2.5 hours. So you can see a two and a half hour movie, but you can't read 1 hour, and you want somebody who has other things in life to do to actually read it and spoon feed you and fill the forms for you. So that mindset to work hard is not there, which is really sad. And then there's also a minority of people, students, who really want to do some things for the profession and to improve it, but they can get drowned with the other more popular ideas. So
Mhm.
that's what's happening.
Yeah. So, sir, the next question is about the association. You have recently won some elections, and you are the right person to answer this question. What differently the associations in UK do to for professional upliftment, which our associations fail to do?
Well, I mean, I'm speaking on a personal capacity as a member of an association. I have always found that even when I was a student in India, I've always had a lot of respect for the UK Professional Approach Association and the APTA as well. Um, the it's because the profession is in this state, in a good state, I would say. It is only because of what the professional association did. It is going with the times, and then updating, and then doing activities for the profession, and then representing to the government. So a lot of things have happened, and then there will always be questions about what they did and what they did not, and that is good. Questions will lead to answers and better things. So at least in the UK, the Chartered Society of Physiotherapists, they have special interest groups, like neurologists, and then Association for Trauma and Orthopedic Physiotherapy. And these are independent bodies, and they work towards promoting the profession. I don't think we have such a structure there. Um, so that is what we need instead of breaking it down. And we need speciality based. It would be good to have that kind of structure. But then again, if the fundamental structure itself is wrong, you can't actually, if the foundation is shaky, you can't actually build upon it, can you? So that's where I think we are lagging. And again, all you have to do is browse through Facebook. Technique, technique, technique. Nothing in terms of professional growth.
Why there is lack of research association with physiotherapists as far as research is concerned? There are very few people who associate themselves by proper communication with other researchers globally, and Is there an image for physiotherapy researchers in India, which is a hurdle, or what it is, sir?
The thing is, at the end of the day, we are all Indians. We have to support each other. And I'm not sure what the source of your question was, but there is a lot of work that's happening. But I'll tell you the barriers. Like we have associated with Ganga hospitals in Coimbatore, starting from the top at the director level to the therapist level. We had a lot of cooperation. I know it takes time, but we had a lot of cooperation. But then we have done a few projects, and then another hospital we engaged with. We found that data is being smudged, and one project is dragging for 6 years. So it all comes down to the perspective. There are people who are willing to engage, and what we need to understand is that for us who are living abroad and who want to do research association, it is an extra thing. It is the same thing for the local therapists as well. It is an out unless it is part of their job responsibility. So it is an additional thing. So there's a lot of volunteer time that is involved. So we shouldn't blame somebody for not engaging in research. But what we should blame is to engaging in research and then doing fraud research. And the second thing is the structures that are involved. So we submitted, we as in a therapist whom I know closely, submitted with SRM University. They submitted a project to the Health Ministry Screening Committee. So they rejected it because it was a physiotherapy thing. They said that this is such some nonsense response. I know it is important that they should protect data from sharing from the country to another country, but what they are acting is like a barrier. So you can't actually do a collaborative research project unless you get clearance from the Health Ministry Screening Committee. And who sits there? They have no clue about what therapy is. So it's not happening. And then the second thing is ethics committees. You have to, what's the point of doing a research work when you can't eventually publish it? So if you don't have a good structure like an ethics committee and really professionals working with the research I once had I was trying to collaborate with research, and they said that data collection is going to suffer because there's no water here. So there are some, and if you want to do a lot of research, India is the best place if you want to do ethically, because we have patients. We have so many patients. If we want to ethically do research, we can collaborate, but that honesty is important. Data fudging, all of that. We once got a set of data. One of our statisticians actually ran it through. They basically laughed at it because it was fudged data, and they don't realize that there are tools now to actually identify these things, and that lack of this thing. Yeah. The fraud research is one of the things. Like if I know that somebody from this institution is doing fraud research, I would not associate with them at all.
No, so why I asked this question was like I really wanted to do a research on how I wanted to see how spirituality and belief on God affects pain management. So if you are guiding me as a senior, what would be the first step I should go with? Because I first approached LinkedIn. I went to I posted it on LinkedIn, but the profiles who responded to me were all beginners, and I don't feel like it was not a global representation, because we have some set of beliefs here, we have beliefs globally, various beliefs, and I just wanted to have a diversified view on spirituality, because spirituality is the one thing which is universal. So what would you suggest me to do, sir?
Yes. So anybody who wants, it's not necessarily your topic, anybody who wants to do any research, it is really important that we contact only the people who are researching in that area, because otherwise it will be a waste of time for them. And they would also think that this person is just fishing kind of thing. So, and the area that you mentioned, it is a huge potential for research, and it is really important because our beliefs, irrespective of which religion we are in and everything, is what determines our, if spiritually we are in a better place today, our pain perception might be low. Tomorrow, if we are not spiritually in a better place, our pain perception might be high. So it is a really important, irrespective of which religion, like I talk about evidence-based medicine and everything, but I'm a very faithful person to whatever I do, and I have absolute respect to every other person's faith, where they come from, and that is an important thing. And a lot of research is happening in this area. So what I would recommend is to actually go to the right people, and
Okay.
and to be honest, Professor, India, research in India and cannot be ignored globally. They have to come. They have to come because it is such a hotbed of research. India cannot, just like in the when globalization happened, nobody could ignore India in terms of volume business or in terms of anything. We are fastest growing economy, and so many things are improving. And irrespective of the gloom that the media shows, there's a lot of improvement that's happening. People cannot ignore. People will come and associate, but if we reach the right people, if somebody is doing research on pain is approaching somebody who is doing research on a completely different area, that alliance will not work.
True. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Now, how Indian physiotherapists are viewed upon by people down in UK? Like how the clinicians are. You just tell me a view on these three categories: clinicians, the teachers from India, and also researchers from India. How they are seen globally?
I would say that with a lot of positive attributes, definitely. Because as a clinician, if you look at the CSP membership itself, we are the second largest, other than natives in the UK. We're the second largest. So we are a hardworking group here. We work very hard, and we are respected a lot as well for the amount of hard work we do. And this is in spite of all the other challenges which are there, which is, I mean, in the highest form, there's racism, in the lowest form, there's microaggression, and other. We work very hard to overcome those, and we work. So clinicians are looked upon really. Researchers, the same thing. But there's this unwritten rule, isn't it, that if you have a PhD in India, you're not looked upon as a really, and many PhDs from India have told me this. I'm not just fishing out data, but they've said that we are. Now, I know of people who have actually managed to do postdoctoral research here, but they did their PhDs elsewhere. They did their masters in India, PhDs elsewhere in another country, and those unconscious biases will always come into play. But if you have done a PhD in India, if you have strong 10 publications, which are really a testament to your work, they cannot ignore you. They simply cannot. I know a few people in India, including you. If you apply for a postdoc position in the UK, they cannot ignore you. Your work speaks for itself. They can't think. They will have to think beyond. Okay, did this fellow do the 2-year PhD staying somewhere else, and then what he bought from the private some of the universities in India, or did this person? Your work will actually delineate that. So there is a lot of respect. Teachers, my personal experience is that I taught for 10 years, but I really struggled to even get past interviews in the UK. I don't know why. It could be multiple. So there are very few people who have been recruited from India directly as teaching faculty here. You can actually count them in two hands. So we don't know what the reasons are. It could be multiple, but that's the situation.